Hello everybody, how are you doing? My name is David McGarity and I work on the security portfolio team and I cover pretty much everything within the security portfolio.
So, hi guys, welcome. And my name is Petteri. I work in the security portfolio team. Basically means that I cover everything relating to your IT environment on the security side of things.
Thanks very much. This is me. I'm Stephen McCormick, and I work on the IBM security team, focused on just about everything in the security portfolio.
Um, yeah, I guess I'm here today just to talk about, things that are current. Are your employees working from home due to coronavirus precautions? If so, here are four things to consider. Home office setup. Does everyone have the physical hardware that they require?
Well, that's a good question. I think that's where everything starts. For myself, I think the key three things I need every day for working from home are these here you can see. So, my phone, my laptop, and headphones. Really important piece, at least for myself. You have a lot of distractions in your house, so putting these on can really give you that privacy and way to concentrate on your work. So I'd say those three things are the key, at least for myself. Thanks.
Will you need BYOD? Phones, tablets, printers, are they corporate or individually owned by the employees?
Well, that's a good question as well. So basically, if there are other things you need in order to carry out your work, now they might not be provided by your employer, but you can still use them for your work. Now, in order to do that, I would check with your IT admin, and what you would really need to have is some sort of a unified endpoint management tool to roll all of these out. So you can have a combination of corporate-owned and privately owned devices, but you can manage them all. You can distribute applications and documents and data to all of these different devices, whether they're your own or corporate owned.
How will you provide training?
So yeah, I guess as you know, once you have all the tools set up, the next thing is to have just the correct training on how to use them and all the tools that you need. So I think the best way is to make this in phases, so you have all the information available in kind of steps, easy to consume for the employees, and then have them hosted somewhere where you can access them from any of these tools, so from your phone or from your laptop. So it's good to set up a repository, one place where you have all this information available for everyone.
How will software be rolled out?
Okay, so naturally the next step is to roll all of this out. So you need to basically have a way of installing or at least a way of proposing the software to your employees over the air. And you can do that with a tool like Unified Endpoint Management. So basically, you just pick and choose the apps and software you want to distribute or make available to your employees, and you use the tool to target whether it's certain groups of your employees or all of them. You can do that using the tool.
Can you configure devices?
So you have all your software and apps rolled out for your employees. Now, there's also other things you can do for those devices. If you need to, let's say, set up profiles for your employees for email on different devices they don't have set up yet, or you need to have some controls over the devices so you can't reset them or so forth, you can do all of these things over the air using a software like UEM.
How secure will all this be?
Well, obviously, we've gone all through all of these things now that you need to have in order to provide the work from home capabilities for your employees. But really the paramount thing here is the security. So you need to have the same controls and the same level of security as you would have within your own network. So That's something that you get with the endpoint management tool for mobile devices and these types of endpoints. So that's something that you really need to consider if you want to make sure you have the same level of security for your workforce working from home.
The second thing to consider, in my opinion, is how can you help employees to shift from delivering service face to face to digitally delivering service?
So the way you really help people move from being in a face-to-face environment to working digitally is actually really simple. All you got to do is you focus on the value that those people bring to your clients and to your customers. You make sure that the key things that your customers are interacting with you for, the key things that you're bringing to your customers, the key things that they want you to deliver to them, are being delivered, and that they're getting the same value and benefit from interacting with your organization. Yes, there is an adjustment for both your customers and for your staff in moving from a primarily face to face or in person relationship to something that is happening more digitally or online. And there are a couple of things really that take a bit of getting used to. So yeah, the likes of sort of people getting comfortable on camera, talking digitally to customers, whether that be over things like kind of one-to-one conversations and things like WebExes, whether it be dealing with people on mass on webinars and things like that.
How do you keep this secure?
Couple of things always to think about, particularly if I'm wearing a security hat, that I like to think about. Number one is, once you move more things into the digital or online environment, you've always got to be concerned, number one, that you sort of lose visibility as to who's interacting with whom. So you need to make sure that the customers that you are sending information to, the people that you are delivering content to, and indeed the people you're collecting information from, are entitled to have that information from a GDPR perspective, that you're not sending customer sensitive information to the wrong place, that you're not collecting information from customers that you shouldn't be gathering, and that any information you are gathering and collecting is being held in a safe and secure platform. And on a safe and secure basis. So, for instance, if you are typically collecting paper signatures on a document, and now you're moving to a digital environment, you need then to make sure that that digital environment is collecting that information into a secure place. So you don't want salespeople using their own laptops and saving things onto non-approved cloud storage, things like Google Drive, iCloud, and various other backup solutions, Dropbox being one. You certainly don't want any customer information landing on those, so you need to have a platform that delivers that. You also need to make sure that your employees and your customer facing staff are properly enabled and have proper access to the tools that they need. This sometimes leads to people getting more access than necessarily they should have. So it's always important to say who needs access to this information, why do they need it, how long do they need it for, and make sure you're delivering. So if you want to take a couple of things away, and it's probably a common theme when we talk about sort of working from home and moving to sort of digital workspaces, it's that you got the right person having the right access to the right content at the right time. So once you sort of look at those questions and ask yourself, simply, are you giving people the right access for the right reasons? You go a long way to helping them move securely to delivering content online.
The third thing to consider, how do you keep a business functioning with reduced headcount? Can remaining staff cover people who are out sick? Do you have tools to deliver this securely?
Well, okay, now we really drill down to the specifics of this whole new environment, this whole new thing that we are facing. So obviously, unfortunately, there will be people who are out sick, who can't carry out their work, and someone needs to pick that up, make sure that show goes on. Now, if you have identity and access management set up for your company, what you can do is you can provide the same access for other people that would then take up the tasks of another person. Now, without identity and access management set up proper way, there's no really secure way to do that. Now, another thing that you might want to consider is to have all the communication tools and all the instructions in a clear, defined place where another person can pick them up, consume them, and then move on to cover other tasks that they're used to.
And the fourth thing to consider, can you make sure that all these core functions of your business will keep running? Will you need outside help and support for SOC, NOC, or other functions?
So when we think about the core functions of your operation, and potentially in the current climate, you may have a situation where you are down a number of staff. Maybe you have a couple of people on your core team that handle some really critical functions, and maybe they have one, possibly two people in the organization that are backing up that function. And what happens when something maybe results in a number of those people being out sick or being unable to work? What happens if you've got people working from home and there is an outage on an internet service provider, perhaps, and you lose connectivity to a particular location, or to some members of staff? Again, you might find yourself in a situation where some of your core functions are compromised or unavailable. So it's often worth thinking about when you're talking about sort of contingency planning, and planning for a situation where your office or offices might be vacant or empty for a period of time, where you're relying on people remote working rather than having access to core systems, and indeed where you're looking at if you've got a resource shortage. So let's imagine, and I think it's probably fair to say that there are some organizations out there that have a really limited number of people within the security function. So you might have a team of 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 people who are managing 100% of the security operations. You also might think your network operations, so like the VPN, that is actually enabling the rest of your workforce to work remotely. If we go back to security for a second, talk about the security operations center, perhaps that operation is even more critical now because you've got people using remote dial-ins, remote logins, and various other bits and pieces working. And that's going to result in some pressures, particularly if those people happen to be sick for a week or two, and if there is, as there is at the moment, an elevated risk of people being sick at the same time, that can be a concern. So you can look at doing a number of things. You can look at sort of migrating some of those services and some of those core functionalities over to a business partner. So you might partner with someone who can deliver that function as a service, or someone who can actually deliver that backup as a service. So if your operation goes out, you don't necessarily need to call in a third-party service provider to sort of come in and sort of pick up your existing infrastructure immediately. Maybe you can move some of the key functionality to the cloud, and then that can be remotely managed by someone who is available as a backup to step in and run that. So what I'm talking about there is, for example, if we're talking about SIEM services, so that would be your security incident and event management systems. If that's currently something that's being monitored by someone in your building on premise, and they have a backup and they have remote access and various things like that, maybe moving something like that onto the cloud and having that run through a third party business partner or a vendor. What that would mean, it's still going to be your people for the most part who are running that service, who are managing it, who are protecting it, who are keeping an eye on it. But it does mean that there is someone else who is skilled up and has access to your environment if you choose to give it to them, in the event that you can't manage that yourself. And there's a number of people who would provide SIEM as a service and various other things that might be a useful value add or value component. Um, a lot of this depends on the depth and complexity of the data you're managing, of your network, your own environment, and how important it is that you have eyes on your security at all times. And again, every organization is different and every set of requirements is different on this point. So you might decide you want to do option A, which might be hiring someone to come in and sort of deliver this as a service, full service offering, take the whole thing away so that it is managed all the time. Option B might be where you hybridize it so that you have things in cloud, or you have a trusted business partner who is available should you need them, and you're obviously paying them for that service on an ongoing basis. And then the third option might be that if everything does go completely sideways, you might contact a large vendor, the likes of IBM or one of our business partners, and they would come in on a one-off basis to deliver, a service or a technical resource to help manage things while things are short. So there's all kinds of different options, all kinds of different ways you can look at doing that. What is important is that you plan ahead of time and make sure that you know when something happens, what you're going to do, who you're going to call, and how it's going to actually be resolved, and that you sort of talk to whoever it is that is going to be your contingency well ahead of time, that you have all of that worked out.
Thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.